Welcome to the chaos sector. Something just doesn't sit well with me regarding recent comments on the last episode. A few really stood out that just seemed to be a waste of time in posting. Some person, out of all the information presented in the episode, mentions how it's Neek's Peaks instead of Neek Peaks. Then, someone suggested the misspelling was intentional, and then another claimed we didn't give credit to that person and should pronounce their name correctly. What the fuck? I mean, what is this garbage? Take that nonsense to those other channels who love trolling back and forth. Our audience does not do that, and this is why we pointed out that a lot of these subscribers are not genuine. First of all, we gave credit to Neek Peaks. Oh, I'm sorry, it's Neek's Peaks. This time it was intentional, fuckface. Second of all, you want to talk about giving credit? Well, to my knowledge, the only person who has given credit to the chaos sector was Harsh Reality. And we know those so-called major true crime channels have viewed our content, yet they shy away from even acknowledging the work we've put into this case. Not the first time that has happened. Oh, and another thing that happens to this channel, which is also something that has happened in the past. Channels secretly watch the content, pull from the analysis or information, and present their own version of it as if it's their authentic work. And of course, never mention where they got the idea or information from. The clown has recently done it. Although we are fond of Huda London, she also done it. Here's the thing. Huda had a recent video regarding the audio that was alleged to be screaming. She literally had a clip of our episode examining the Linda Lane audio, if our real subscribers remember that, of course. Now the thing is, Huda used another video to suggest that there was screaming heard and told her audience to subscribe to that channel, which examined the body cam footage. But she wouldn't do the same for the chaos sector, though. Why? And to be honest, our analysis of the Linda Lane audio was much more revealing. Maybe for Huda specifically, she's a bit, nervous to speak about the chaos sector. We get it, our path is a bit chaotic at times. No filter, straight to the point, and nobody is exempt from being questioned. Some are not so willing to push it that far. We expose everything and anyone. There is no tiptoeing in our investigative work. The clown recently had a video regarding the police cruiser, where he claims that police cruiser is the same white vehicle in the Linda Lane surveillance. But here's the problem. For one, he presents it as if he's the first person to present that theory. Second, he simply viewed our episode, placing the cruiser in that Linda Lane surveillance, and tried to convince his audience nobody had done that before, and he was the first. We viewed that video and left a comment about it. Since he claims nobody had ever done that, and we had already done it, it's obvious he had essentially stole our work and passed it off as his, and even in a way that heightens his so-called true crime status. In other words, a deceptive narcissist. Boom.
Nice. In the Kanika Jenkins case, many would steal our analysis. I mean, literally steal our content, cut and clip out portions that had visual evidence it was our work, and put their own so-called analysis over the video. Mind you, we downloaded all of the executable files of Kanika in footage and other relative surveillance cameras throughout that hotel. Hours upon hours, frame by frame, breaking down each segment to the audience. We were considered one of the best in the J4K community due to our dedication and thought-provoking analysis. Nothing has changed here in this case. We are considered one of the best by those who view our content. We don't go around bragging about what we've accomplished or revealed. We simply present our investigation, and others come to that conclusion. It's how we break things down, as it may have already been broken down in the past. And that's the difference between the chaos sector and others. We definitely appreciate others and even find motivation to look into key details. But we never pass something off as our work when it's not. We give credit to someone who pointed something out, and we echo that with our own perspective of what was revealed. A community works together, sharing, supporting. A community doesn't lurk around viewing others and then taking that work and suggesting they originated the idea or theory to their audience. So if you see the patterns here, so-called true crime investigators secretly watch the chaos sector and basically piggyback off our hard work. And yes, it is hard work. It takes a lot of time to investigate what we do. Another issue we need to address, which we've done before. Emails? Oh, those emails. For some reason, individuals believe that the chaos sector will communicate with them directly via an email. This is not a, quote, interactive channel like others. And that's not the main issue, though, because we interact right in the comment section, and even right now. That's enough interaction. It's the secretive element of an email. If you have information or even evidence that you want to share, then just share it. No need to keep it a secret. Oh, wait, it wouldn't be a secret anymore. Because if you relay that information to the chaos sector via email, you know it will be revealed in an episode. So what's the point of an email if the same information you deemed to be so vital to the case requires secret communication will be revealed in an episode to the public? You don't make sense, my friend. Oh, it's so much information that it's time-consuming posting it in the comments? Well, then just make a video. You have a channel, so just post something. Because alluding to knowing so much, you would have to have insider information, so expose it. I'm sick and tired of people claiming to have key information, yet are asking others to carry their load for them. And even suggesting others are wrong or incorrect about something, fine. Tell the truth. Get the information out there. Whenever someone asks a content creator to communicate with them via an email, they can't be trusted. Or maybe they have compiled all of the information or theories from Reddit post, TikTok, Facebook, and other platforms where people gave their opinions about what happened. We specifically don't need that information. We've done quite well without a lot of speculation, even if it's logical. We have our own speculations. No need to compound it to the point it's not really tangible. An email address can be tracked. You can obtain everything you need, such as an IP address, which literally tracks down a specific person. No offense to others, but it's very foolish to be exchanging emails with individuals in the comment section or in your live streams. You don't know who those individuals are, and it's not safe to do that anyway. Remember, you're covering a murder case, for fuck's sake. Once again, the Kenneka Jenkins case. Many would do the same thing with that case. Oh, I have important information about the case. What's your email so I can tell you this or tell you that? If you have information, then go speak to the authorities, anonymously, right? It's not going to stay a secret, right? Oh, and another similarity. The so-called insider communication many claim to have with individuals involved in a case. Some claim to have spoken to the peers in the Kenneka Jenkins case, yet only through emails would you be able to get that information. So caught up, many deviated from their common sense. Why in the world would individuals associated with Kenneka or her peers talk to a content creator when they wouldn't tell the authorities that same information? They won't snitch to the cops, but they will snitch to a content creator who will reveal all of that info to thousands of people at a time. Oh, the content creator will keep it a secret? Then what's the fucking point of obtaining the info then? A bunch of goddamn garbage. Sorry for the profanity, but it brought back memories in the J4K community and how there were snakes slithering all throughout.
And even in this case, some so-called true crime investigators have interviewed students and others from that town. Or they have insider information from someone close to those housemates. Even if they did speak to students or individuals from Moscow, there's nothing revealed or exposed. Please put that into perspective. Those residents of Moscow would agree to speak to a true crime investigator about the murders? When they didn't speak out publicly beforehand? Sure, I'll speak to you, but I won't tell you what I really know, though. Well, that was a big waste of time now, wasn't it? And you knew that, so what are you really up to then? The typical likes, views, subscribers, and even financial gain. It's so frustrating to present our episode, breaking everything down, and the incorrect spelling of a channel's name is the focus in this episode. No mention of the actual analysis? No post about the families having knowledge of those murders before 12 p.m.? No post about the potential exchange of drugs? How about the private driver and the DoorDash driver being the same person? Or how about Dot's claim of seeing Dylan, Bonnie, and Clyde and others outside the scene of the crime Sunday morning? You're telling me out of everything you viewed in that episode, your brain was triggered to mention a misspelling? And others claim it was intentional? And another claimed we didn't give credit to that person, when that's exactly what we did. Now some would say, oh, never mind them. It's not worth getting distracted by nonsense. Negative. We don't allow the nonsense to go unchallenged. You cause a problem, you get called out for it. Simple as that. Look at this nonsense. This, person states, quote, Dot has been debunked. No, it is you that has been debunked. Your channel has no content. You joined like 6 or 7 months ago. Your troll channel has been debunked. A conspirator, perhaps even an FBI agent posing as a troll who many would overlook. You stick out like a sore thumb, though, so you'll always get ran over by the 18-wheeler. Yeah, see, we have the luxury of exposing numbskulls and keeping ourselves focused on our investigations at the same time. Be our guest. We'll just expose conspirators in the case and also in the comment threads. Makes things a bit more complete, in a way. But let me get back to the clown, because they really grind my gears. To the clown, Don't claim to be the first one to claim that the police cruiser was the vehicle in the Linda Lane surveillance, because we all know you never presented that theory in the past. You viewed our episode where we presented that theory and then presented the theory to your audience as if you were the only one who had examined that. In your own words, sir.
Mockery of the true evidence that we've uncovered. Speaking of true evidence, let's check out the Linda Lane footage. We can see a vehicle that does passes at least 3 or 4 times on this footage. This seems to line up exactly with what they say in the PCA, the probable cause affidavit to arrest Brian Kohberger. Some people are convinced this is a Hyundai Elantra. I'm not so convinced, and you're not so convinced either. And sometimes certain creators are just wrong. No matter how many times they slander me, no matter how many little animations they make, no matter how rude they are to their own audience, they're just wrong. And that's why we're going to take our own look at the Linda Lane footage with our own animation. Let's do some overlays. We're going to find out exactly whose car this is right here and right now. Allegedly. Anyways, I don't think anybody else has done this.
This fucker, I tell you. Flat out lying to those cult members, knowing damn well he got that theory from the chaos. Think about it. I want you to get inside the mind of the clown. Watches our episode breaking that down, decides to steal that theory and upload a video claiming they don't recall anyone addressing that. Disregarding the chaos. Oh, we don't have close to 500,000 subscribers like you, so we're insignificant. We don't deserve recognition from the big bad clown. We're peasants. You're stealing from peasants. Oh, most of the subs are not real people, though. I mean, this is full-fledged fuckery right here. But let's continue.
So I'm going to do it. I'm usually the first, just like when I said boom. I was the first with that, too. So, check out the car on the screen. We're taking the undercover police officer car and we're putting it on top of the Linda Lane footage. Let's see if it lines up. Let's see if it's a match. Is this a match? Yeah. Is this cop car the car that we see on Linda Lane? Yeah, it is. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, this isn't rocket science. That car is a match. I've previously been referred to as Lord Drip Drop because I own a little piece of land in Scotland. But maybe now you can also call me the true crime animation king.
Doesn't seem like a big deal to some, but what it indicates to me is that not only do you secretly watch the chaos sector, but you essentially steal from us as well. We never steal from others, and if it's something we were inspired to research where someone discovered it first, we give credit to them and their investigative work. Because passing something off as your own authentic theory in a way where you are taking credit for that theory is very dishonest. The clown could have created his video like such. Quote, shout out to Chaos Sector, who examined the police cruiser and was convinced that it was the white vehicle in the Linda Lane surveillance. Unquote. You see how easy that is? But instead, the clown tries to take credit for something they had never previously presented to their audience. In a very narcissistic way, I might add. Don't recall the clown examining the audio in the Linda Lane surveillance neither, which clearly is linked to the murders. Many claimed it was fake audio, but a true crime investigator, which the clown considers themselves, would have to examine it firsthand to determine this. Don't recall the clown analyzing that audio from Linda Lane and linking the timeframes with the actual crime occurring at the victim's home. And all of the audio evidence would suggest that the crime occurred before, any white vehicle was spotted. Yet, the clown can dig into some cult who they suggest may have been behind the murders. Go figure. This is not investigative work that needs to be really dug into to find it's right there in your face. Come to think about it, the clown avoids most of that entire circle of peers. Dylan and Bethany are a given, but I don't recall the clown focusing on Bonnie and Clyde, at least to the extent of linking them to the murders. We all know they're linked to the murders, by the way. It's awfully familiar to, once again, the Kanika Jenkins case. Many in the J4K community, which was also the true crime community, avoided holding Kanika's peers accountable when clearly they had conspired against her that night. The clown sends you down a rabbit hole away from the core of the investigation. And although some things are relevant, it's about pulling you away from the core of the investigation and receiving financial gain while doing so. For example, the clown's tunnel theory. Although it may have some relevance without any context or connection to anyone, such as students, you can use that tunnel, it's merely an empty theory. And ironically, it provokes the audience to travel down that rabbit hole, similar to the tunnel, or focusing on Brent Kopacka and linking him to Kohberger and the murders in Idaho. Not really a problem at face value, but although I agree there's something to Kopacka's death, the clown was so eager to link his death to the Idaho murders. Kopacka was from Pullman, Kohberger was from Pullman. This doesn't mean they were associated in any way. Like pulling teeth, the clown just wouldn't give up on what he claimed was a possible connection. Now, some may agree that there is a possible connection. And that's the kicker. The relativity convinces the audience to buy into it. When right smack dab in Moscow, there is enough to dig into. For example, Dylan and Bethany. The clown obviously broke down the pair, but what they didn't do was build on knowing that the housemates were awake and aware. That is the core foundation of your investigative work. You have to start with that dynamic because it leads to the who, the what, the why, the when, the where, the how. That's how you establish your foundation. And trust me, everything starts to come together, despite not having the actual evidence at your disposal. You want to know why? Because there's something called common sense or your innate intelligence. And this is where the clown deviates from. They have the foundation, but decided to fly off the handle, suggesting some cult of Odin may have been responsible for the murders as a possible theory. No, wait, chaos. Those all have potential connections to the murders. The cult of Odin, has individuals who are related to this person, who's related to that person, seeking revenge against this person, who's related to that person, who's related to one of the victims. Some may have already viewed that content, but let's break it down. The clown's theory here. Kaylee's father has a brother named Nathan who murdered someone's father, and that family sought revenge. But the clown creates the narrative that that family sought revenge against Nathan's offspring. But Nathan apparently didn't have any offspring. Here's the report. Basically, Nathan murdered a 50-year-old man. The son sought revenge against Nathan. That's the foundation of the theory. But the clown creates the setting where that family sought revenge against Nathan's children. But why would it be the child instead of, an older relative such as Nathan's brother? They bypassed so many relatives, all the way down the family tree to one of the younger relatives of Nathan being Kaylee. What about the brother? What about the sister-in-law? There was no child or younger person murdered. The victim was an older man, about 50 years old. So, if it's revenge they want, then Steve, if anything, would have been the first one targeted because he literally was the next of kin, Nathan's brother. And if they got to Kaylee, surely they could have got to Steve just as easy, or his wife, based on tracking their targets down. It doesn't add up based on the dynamic of retaliation. An eye for an eye is based on a karmic justice. You kill my father, I kill yours. If your father is dead, then I kill your mother. If your mother is dead, then I kill your sibling. If you have none, I kill your spouse. If you have none, I kill your child. If you have none, then I kill whoever the hell is close to you. And Steve would be that sibling, who was the next of kin, not Kaylee somewhere partying in Moscow. Or for that matter, may have already moved out of that home and stayed in Austin when this plan for revenge was starting to take place. Anywho, what the clown did was take an incident involving a relative and just threw Kaylee into the mix to justify the theory of Kaylee essentially being the target. But Kaylee wasn't the only victim, remember? You don't murder 3 other individuals if you only had one target. That target would have been taken care of somewhere in Austin if that's the case. An eye for an eye wouldn't consist of murdering 3 other housemates, and also leaving 2 survivors behind. Because at that point, you might as well search the entire house and take everyone out, leave no witnesses. Why would the cult of Odin leave Dylan and Bethany as witnesses? They didn't leave Xana and Ethan as witnesses, right? We understand Maddie because she was physically with their target upstairs. Was Dylan and Bethany in on it? Oh, wait, are they members of the Odin cult? That's why they were spared? It appeared logical at face value due to relativity. But when you break it down, it doesn't add up. Everyone can go through every episode from the chaos, and every theory or sub-theory we present cannot be broken down in this manner, because we make sure the core of that theory is logical and have a solid foundation and motive. I'll tell you what the clown did, because I doubt they actually dug into this on their own. One of their cult members fed them that theory, and they simply presented it to the rest of the cult members in the video. See, those who deem themselves true crime investigators are held to a standard. We all make mistakes, but if we had looked into this as a possible theory, we would break these scenarios down first before we present a theory to our audience. Because you are presenting a theory involving specific people who you allude to being responsible for those murders. You even showed their photos, dug into their social media accounts, and basically claimed they were involved in the murders, or even responsible. Speaking of responsible, that's irresponsible as a true crime investigator. Let me guess, this is where the clown's quote, concern for his safety, came into play. Oh, before someone says, well, chaos, you're doing the same thing in regards to the housemates, family, and friends. No. We have come to that conclusion based on the information and evidence presented. The housemates knew what happened, that's evident. The family and friends were aware of those murders prior to 12 p.m., that's evident. So nothing we present is slander, it's just the facts. Tunnels, Bitcoin, evil cults, fire dragons, and mythical fairies all were possibly responsible for those murders if you ask the clown. Clowns perform magic tricks at birthday parties. And what's the secret ingredient? The artistic manipulation of the child's perception of reality. To the children, the clown literally is performing magic. They're a clown for a reason, my friends. It's all about the artistic manipulation of your perception of reality. I mean, isn't it best to focus on who was physically inside that home during the murders? The very housemates are even possible suspects, for fuck's sakes. There were like 5 people running away in the body cam footage. You could simply place those 5 individuals at the scene of the crime, as a theory, of course. My point here is not having an actual concrete theory to build on, and presenting theories which expand out beyond Moscow, like Bitcoin and fire dragon cults. It guides the audience to too many theories and speculation, and they can't pinpoint a foundation to build from. All the while, racking in those super chats, PayPal, Cash App, or whatever they have, and even has a digital store as well, selling clown shirts and other merchandise to the cult. The audience starts to embrace the clown as an entertainer subconsciously, rather than the proclaimed true crime investigator. Once again, it takes me back to the Kanika Jenkins case. This is becoming eerie, to be honest. Many would have so many theories presented based on examining surveillance. This person was running over here, this person was doing this, literally all over the place, even distorting the footage so much, creating entire illusions, passing it off as physical evidence of their presented theory. The imagination was running wild, people claiming individuals were hidden in the walls, embedded in the floors. I mean, it had gotten out of control. But the chaos sector focused on those pictures on the wall, which revealed reflections of Kanika's peers walking with her. Evidence had been visually proven through a picture in surveillance that you can't edit without distorting the picture itself. We spotted things in the footage, and it were the so-called friends of Kanika helping escort her down those hallways, into that kitchen, and into the freezer. If anyone is still around, you would remember us specifically showing one of those peers based on their clothing, and more distinctly, her hairstyle. We could clearly see your hair bun, young lady. It literally stuck up and out like a sore thumb. This peer was holding Kanika by her waist, heading around that corner in the kitchen. They tried to edit the footage to conceal it, but you can't hide the truth. In the Idaho murder investigation, individuals like the clown will have too many theories, which seem to be plucked out of the air. But how can this be when you have the foundation to build from? That foundation would be the specific housemates were murdered because they were the targets. Simple as that. No need to avoid this, no need to allude to it, no need to jump around this foundation. But this would force the clown to stay on this path, and similar to their so-called digging into the Odin cult, that same digging would get you closer to the truth, instead of pulling you away from it. There is a difference between misinformation and disinformation, of course. Misinformation could be a mistake. Someone passed this theory on to you, and you presented it to others before really checking it out. But misinformation can also be intentional, purposely passing that theory to others as a form of wait for it. Damage control. And disinformation, of course. The perpetrator does provide a logical theory, along with facts, information, and evidence, to support that theory, claiming to be genuine, honest, fighting for justice, but behind closed doors, they have an agenda contrary to that so-called sincerity, because the further along you are in investigation, you should have a solid foundation to go by. In other words, a theory that your audience comes to a consensus about. Instead, they're searching for keys in a dark room. Again, the same problem existed in the J4K community. Years had passed, and you have content creators still dancing around with no firm theory as to who was responsible for her death. Kicking the can down the road, avoiding the peers' accountability, streaming for hours, generating that YouTube dollar, that's all it was. Close to 500K subscribers, averages close to 100K views, multiple channels as well. Seems like a money grab from the clown at the expense of true crime investigating. Truth does not come with a price tag. Many would be wise to keep that in mind. You understand? I doubt the clown would be so eager in receiving donations and selling merchandise if they actually stuck to the theory of the housemates being targeted related to a drug trafficking organization. Nope, because you have to take things seriously when you do that. The fraternities and sororities would be vital in that theory. Bonnie and Clyde would be vital in that theory. Dot's claims would be vital in that theory. Even WSU Kim's claims would be vital in that theory. Your complete attention and investigating is following the trails that have been left behind, not some ledge with a ladder and burnt discoloration, alluding to it being blood. And yes, that ledge is more than likely gritty dirt that has been on that ledge forever. It's not blood, because it's not just near Xana's window, but it's also on the other side of the ledge, where there is no window. This tells me that the clown is not actually, investigating. They're being spoon-fed theories from pictures, photos, and other material given to them for examination. Instead of examining it first and drawing a conclusion about it in the lab, the clown just throws it out there as potential evidence or theory. Another reason why you don't get into the email parties, because individuals will pump up the noise, hoping the clown can perform their magic with the information they've been given. Then it becomes an addiction. Tons of photos, claims, speculations, so-called insider information take over your channel so much that you have to put out a disclaimer that you've been informed or notified about this or that before getting into that theory. You're a true crime commentator, at the least, no offense to the real ones out there. Because you're not a true crime investigator, no theory should be presented without the proper homework. Our mistakes, which we have, of course, are very subtle. And this is without digging into the TikToks, Reddits, Facebooks, all of the various sources of speculative elements. We do not make mistakes that compromise our theory in the investigation. And that's the problem with the clown. Too many theories randomly thrown out there. It compromises the investigative work they claim to do. And a real true crime investigator sticks to what's in front of them and then perhaps expand outwards to find possible answers. But the answers are right in front of us. We know this was rooted in drug trafficking. We know the housemates had stepped into deep water. We know the victims were the specific targets in the home. Bonnie and Clyde were the pushers in Moscow, and Bonnie's parents not only stayed near the victims, she apparently frequented that home, we assume for, quote, party products. And also, she was a DoorDash driver, and again, based on Dot's accounts, who stayed next door, claimed to have saw Bonnie and Clyde later that morning with Dylan. Although it has been so-called debunked, why would Dot make that up? There's no benefit for her. An investigator immediately focuses on the circle of peers, those associated with that circle, and of course the drug element. But if you're more like a parody of a true crime investigator, you'll always take a few steps forward, then many steps backwards in the progression of your investigation. An actual investigator has progression in their work. They find a clue or evidence, and they continue to build on that throughout their investigation. They don't deviate off that path, because now they may find something that seems relevant, which only leads to a dead end. And this is what the clown does. Presenting so many random things, the investigation they claim to be performing doesn't have a linked chain. Because the clown started to deviate from that link, which leads to no real center focus in the investigation. Some may say, well, chaos. The clown continues to put out content about the case, and you all have not produced anything breaking or revealing. Well, once again, referring back to the Kenneka Jenkins case, we're done. That was covered up by Rosemont PD, Crown Plaza, the families, the friends, and also individuals in the J4K. Drug-related murders, housemates who survived, may have been complicit or involved. A man was framed to protect that drug trafficking organization that spans throughout that trio of states, being Washington, Oregon, and Idaho. That's why they threw that crashed white Hyundai Elantra out there discovered in Oregon, foreshadowing in my eyes. Kohberger was, well, you can say he was his own type of true crime investigator, snooping around, prying eyes, noticing slick drug transactions, and was a bit to himself. The lone wolf stands out more than a wolf pack. Moscow PD covered it up. The universities are protecting their financial interest, and a prosecution just self-destructing in the courtroom right before our eyes. Our investigation is complete. We've done a lot of heavy lifting. There's nothing left but a testimony revealing the truth. If you can't put all of this together and build on a theory, which the clown still hasn't provided, well, you might want to choose another field of interest. The clown often says, quote, I don't know, this is a guessing game. Or, this is someone else's fantasy. Translation, either I don't want to give my audience my theory about who is responsible for those murders and continue to kick the can down the road, generating revenue off of the case. Wait, let me touch on that. Many won't provide a solid theory, one that would gain a base consensus about, because it allows them to keep dragging their audience around, alluding to this, alluding to that, basically teasing their audience over the course of their so-called investigating. Look at our progression. Almost immediately, we knew Kohberger was being framed. In fact, I don't think many people had really claimed that until we started to point that out. Some may have, but it became odd that others were starting to question the evidence against him after we had already come to the conclusion he was framed. That was like 11 months ago, a few months after the crime happened to this date. We presented the theory that the knife sheath was planted in the home if there actually was one. We exposed the flat-out lies from Dateline NBC regarding Kohberger breaking into his friend's home, which would have resulted in an arrest, all to justify the stalker narrative in connection to the current accusations against him. We exposed how Kohberger's so-called friends simply tossed him to the fire and didn't have the courage to defend him. We exposed how his Tinder date was paid off to depict him as a creep, once again justifying the so-called stalker motive, which was never proven. We exposed the suspicious Mark Furman being a so-called private investigator involved in this case. We exposed the lack of digital evidence the mainstream media claimed existed. I mean, our investigative work aligns with how a real detective would go about solving the case. And we even did that, presenting a simulation of how Moscow PD was supposed to handle the case. That's right, our audience remembers all of this. We made mistakes along the way, and we always have the integrity to go back and correct those mistakes for our audience's sake, and also the integrity of the investigation. As we progressed further, we examined surveillance footage, we linked Bonnie and Clyde to the murders, we questioned WSU Kim, analyzed Dot's claims, questioned the private driver's accounts. Bonnie was already suspected of being the DoorDash driver. We echoed that as well. And ultimately, we sit at the base theory that the murders were drug-related. After looking at the most logical motive, we asked the questions to our audience to challenge ourselves with the theory we presented as a way to weed out the most logical theory. But let's continue. Translation: either I don't want to give my audience my theory about who is responsible for those murders, or I simply don't have the slightest clue of who would be responsible. I think you would agree that it's the first option. Yet the clown claims they fear for their safety, and presenting content could lead to them being, quote, unalived. Dramatic much? Well, it is a circus, and circuses are nothing but scripted performances. And calling your supporters a cult is also alarming. A cult is not depicted as positive in any way. The self-proclaimed king in the true crime community, hey, you sit at the top of the community, revealing all of the lies, exposing the truth, discovering key information. The clown is the best, hands down. No one else is capable or skilled enough to do what they do. This is not hate. This is calling you out for the fuckery you display on your channel. And to be honest, we used to acknowledge the clown, as their intentions did seem genuine, and they pointed out key issues in the case. But, as the saying goes, I guess with a pun, the paint will eventually wear off. You are the reason those victims will get the justice they deserve. Seems more concerned on making the audience laugh, in my opinion. What do you expect from a clown? Or to be honest, disinfo agent. Now that's a boom. There is a little pocket many have embedded themselves in, obtaining financial gain and covering murder cases. Yep, I said it, and it needed to be said. If it seems like this has gone on too long, well, it needed to. The clown stole from us, and you do realize that this would not only be one's intellectual property, but also an insult to the work ethic you have in an investigation. It's a slap in the face to that content creator and shows their true colors. We're not true crime investigators. We don't carry that title and never have. We focus on the truth and the lies that are placed in front of it. There are no genuine communities on YouTube. Never assume that. You have genuine people, and you have deceptive people. We don't censor words such as murder, death, or kill. It's almost like a cult. Oh, they were unalived. They were passed away. No, they were murdered. Stop with the politically correct bullshit, because it's not genuine anyway, coming from snakes. Yeah, I'm a bit pissed off because the clown's actions opened up a can of maggots. It draws attention to all of the true crime impersonators. They know who they are, we don't, but we know they're out there. Monetizing your channel after latching onto a case where 4 college students were murdered, that should piss many people off, right? I thought so. Clinging to a high-profile case, so-called investigating and racking in the YouTube bucks in the process. The J4K had tons of them, having damn near 24-hour streams, just yapping on and on without going anywhere. Like a clock on the wall, always moving, but never going anywhere. Going in circles, just racking up those hours viewed, generating financial gain from a fucking tragedy. The same with the Idaho murders investigation. Ask yourself, how many people were monetized before covering high-profile cases? Eureka! We've struck gold, they would say to themselves, and ran with it ever since. Not sure how many will take this, but when you are investigating a high-profile case such as this one, if you are exposing a lot, you're not showing your face, and you definitely aren't monetizing that content. Also, you won't be having email parties with individuals about the case. This is why we had to differentiate between true crime investigators and true crime commentators. Commentators have no problem showing their face because they are not truly establishing a theory, or simply put, who directly is responsible for the murders. Investigators, on the other hand, will go that extra mile, no offense. There are genuine commentators out there, and of course investigators. All in all, they both want the same thing, of course. I digress. Those comments really pissed me off, which led to the rant, which also led to exposing what needed to be exposed in this case. This is the chaos sector,